Every major disease outbreak, every ancient city, every massive war, almost all of them were affected by one invisible force. Not water, not fire, air. And most people have no idea how controlling it has rewritten the history of the world. We never see it, yet every breath we take is either protecting us or slowly killing us. Throughout history, kings, engineers, and doctors waged war on one mysterious enemy: bad air. This story takes you through plagues, deserts, and revolutions to uncover how ventilation may have saved humanity. We'll begin 4,000 years ago, not with electricity, not with medicine, but with something much simpler: the wind. In ancient Mesopotamia, cities like Babylon and stood baked under unforgiving sun. By midday, streets turned to ovens. Yet inside certain palaces, the air seemed to move. It almost whispered. Palm leaves gently waved beside clay pools. Walls were positioned to catch just the right gusts. This wasn't magic, it was engineering. Meanwhile, in ancient Egypt, royal chambers used soaked curtains and open courtyards that channeled desert wind, making the heat survivable. Long before AC, before thermometers, before modern science. Ancient architects didn't just build walls, they shaped the air between them. Ventilation wasn't decoration, it was survival. This was early power. To control airflow was to control comfort, health, and even class. Because the rich sat in breezy halls, the poor, they suffocated in solid heat. But something even smarter was happening far east, in Persia. Somewhere amidst the deserts of Iran, a strange-looking tower rose above sandstone roofs. Locals called it the Badgir. In the West, we know it as the windcatcher. Imagine a tall vertical shaft with holes pointed in different directions. Any breeze? It's trapped, forced down into homes below. Cool, dry, breathable air in the middle of a scorching desert. No electricity, no machines. And the science was precise. Difference in air pressure, heat rising, vent direction, all guiding the flow. In Egypt, Persia, India, even the Romans had their own versions of cooling by air movement. Air became the hidden symbol of empire sophistication, one historian said. If your palace could breathe, you were civilized. Most people think ancient tech was about stone and fire, but some of the world's smartest inventions were only built to move air. Now jump to 1347, the beginning of perhaps the most devastating pandemic in human history, the Black Death, bubonic plague. Nearly 50% of Europe's population died in just a few years. But the real horror wasn't the death, it was the suffocating misunderstanding about how it spread. People believed it was bad air, the miasma theory, and in some ways, they weren't far off. Yes, the plague was carried by fleas, but in poorly ventilated homes, with no sunlight, no moving air, infected homes became death traps. Doctors wore those creepy beaked masks, stuffed with dried herbs and vinegar rags. They thought they were purifying the air. It didn't work, but what they were sensing was real. Stagnant air made things worse. Hundreds of years before germ theory, people instinctively feared still, dirty air. And they weren't wrong. Ventilation could have saved tens of thousands. Hospitals began shifting. Open windows became policy. Cross-ventilation saved lives, but not fast enough. Now the story jumps forward to 1902, inside a printing company in Brooklyn. Willis Carrier, just 25 years old, was tasked with solving a problem:
Humidity. The paper kept curling, ink wouldn't dry, production was a mess. So Carrier built a machine that forced air over cold coils, drying it as it passed through. It worked. It didn't just fix printing problems, it cooled the air around it. But no one realized what this machine would become. By 1920s, AC was in movie theaters, train cars, department stores. People flooded in during summers, not for films, but for the chill. Carrier had, by accident, created the technology that would allow entire cities in hot climates to survive. According to Carrier's biographer, Carrier didn't invent air conditioning to cool people. He did it to stop paper from wrinkling. It's a perfect example of an invention becoming a revolution. Once AC became mainstream, everything changed. Before cooling tech, places like Houston, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Dubai were nearly unlivable in summer. Sparse populations, no booming economy. But suddenly, millions moved in. Investors poured billions. Skyscrapers rose in the most unlikely deserts. AC didn't just cool homes, it changed history. By the 1970s, 70% of southern U.S. homes had artificial cooling. Malls, offices, aircraft, homes, everything was sealed tight. But there was a downside, a big one. In 1976, at a hotel in Philadelphia, a strange fever started killing people after a veterans convention. Dozens got sick, some died. The cause? A bacteria laced through the air conditioning system. It became known as Legionnaires Disease. Ventilation wasn't the hero that time. It became the killer. We forgot that even clean air has to move, or it stagnates. And when it stagnates, it becomes deadly. Other building issues followed: sick building syndrome, mold outbreaks, mood disorders, all linked to improper airflow. But the real reckoning came in 2020. March 2020, COVID-19. For the first time in a century, the modern world came to a halt because of an invisible enemy in the air. Doctors, scientists, engineers were confused until one thing became clear: ventilation mattered more than anyone realized. Poorly ventilated spaces spread infection like wildfire. Bars, gyms, classrooms, all were suspect. Suddenly people were cracking open windows. Offices installed massive HEPA filters. School architects were called in to study airflow, not aesthetics. We began to listen to air again, just like the plague doctors 300 years later. Old wisdom came back. Medieval tactics we once mocked, like open-walled hospitals, became our new defense in high-tech pandemics. But here's the biggest twist of them all. In Tokyo, modern apartment buildings are now based on ventilated samurai home layouts. Sliding walls, internal breezeways, skylight paths designed not for style, but for constant movement of air. Architects are studying windcatchers again in Iran. Old blueprints are resurfacing. Why? Because the future depends on breathable architecture, sustainable airflow, less reliance on fragile electric AC. The future isn't just smart tech, it's pulling ancient ideas back into the modern world to save lives, energy, and possibly the planet. And in this invisibility lies the lesson. We never think about it. The walls around us, the doors we shut, the air we trap. Yet time and time again, history has shown air is not something to be controlled lightly. It's not just what we breathe, it's a living part of how we live. Kings, engineers, and even plague doctors learned, some too late, that what we don't see often shapes everything we do. Carrier didn't plan to cool the world. Persia didn't mean to create a future-resistant idea.
Yet each of them gave us blueprints, not just for comfort, but for survival. Just imagine, the next great invention may not be about screens or chips. It may be about renewing something we've always known: how to let air move, clean, and protect. We shut windows to keep out risk, but sometimes the biggest danger is what we keep in. So take a breath and ask yourself, is the air around you helping? Would you have survived ancient heat or pandemic plagues? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more.